Hello, everyone, once again. This is Rob. Welcome back to Media Awareness. Before I continue, a reminder the fundraiser continues. For those of you new to my channel or unaware, I am a disabled individual and I use a motorized wheelchair/scooter all day, every day for my independence, and I need your help. My insurance will not cover anything with regard to my scooter as they view it as a quote luxury item end quote. Despite the fact that I am unable to walk whatsoever, in addition to being unable to use any other type of scooter or power chair, or even a standard wheelchair for that matter, as I only have limited dexterity in one hand. In addition to that, I do not have a backup scooter or wheelchair to rely on at the current time. So if my scooter should malfunction, as it has in the past, I will yet again be a fish out of the water, a scenario I want to avoid at all costs. With that stated, below the title of this video in the description below, as well as in a separate section below the information pertaining to this video, you will find a spot fund link. It is a fundraiser. It's easy to contribute. It takes a few seconds, and any and all help is welcome. I cannot stress that enough. Even $5 or $10 can make all the difference in the world, and you can even contribute anonymously. The purpose of the fundraiser is to both assist me with the ongoing refurbishing of my existing scooter, as well as to help me save for the purchase of a new scooter. I arrived at these conclusions following a malfunction that disabled the battery charging mechanism and it needed replacement. And for roughly 2 weeks, I needed to be pushed around my own home by family and friends, which severely limited my independence. However, it was that long overdue wake up call that I need a backup plan, and the backup plan is to have a brand new scooter to use moment to moment, day to day, every day, and my existing scooter completely refurbished, waiting in the wings to be used at a moment's notice if necessary, when necessary. Additionally, my wheelchair van is inoperative whatsoever. It has been deemed as unrepairable, and therefore I'm saving for a new wheelchair van as well. So any and all help is welcome. And I do want to extend a gracious thanks to those who have contributed thus far, in addition to those who plan on contributing, as your contributions have and will make a world of difference in my life. Thank you all. I love you all. If you're not yet subscribed to Media Awareness, my channel, please consider subscribing and becoming part of the Media Awareness family. I'd love to have you. Additionally, if you do subscribe, please be sure to click the bell icon. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video, much like this one. So this is an album review of the new Spock Spirit album, The Archaeoptimist, and it was released today on November 21st, 2025. And although I do not have a physical copy in hand to show you guys the packaging and go through all of that, as I normally do with album reviews when possible, I'm going to do a review of what I listened to this morning on Spotify, and that way you guys will have an idea of what the album sounds like. And I will have in the description below the link for the official Spock's Beard website, as well as my reaction video to the single Invisible, which was the band's first single off this new album. So I'm going to go through the track listing, and I'm going to give my thoughts on the songs afterwards. I'm also going to first go through the band's lineup, as it has changed to some degree since prior albums have been released. So we're going to do that first. But before I go any further with that, Spock's Beard, for those of you who are new to Spock's Beard, are a progressive rock band that originated in the 1990s, and they kind of fall under the categorization of neo-progressive rock, but many of the progressive rock bands of today really kind of shun away from that label, and I can't say I blame them because it is very much reflective of classic progressive rock. So why not just call it progressive rock and call it a day? And that's kind of how I feel. But they've been around for a while, and they have uh, put out a uh, fair number of albums varying in styles and thematic structures. And following the departure of founding member Neil Morris after the release of the album Snow, he embarked on a very successful uh, career in his solo work as a Christian progressive rock artist, and Spock's career carried on with drummer Nick DiVigilio stepping up to lead vocals and doing the next several albums, and then Nick departed, and Ted Leonard of Enchant replaced Nick on lead vocals, and has been the lead vocalist ever since. So I'm going to go through the current lineup with you, and after that, I will go through the track listing, and we'll talk about the tracks afterwards. So first of all off, I want to mention that this new album was primarily written by Ryo Akamoto with co-writer Michael Whiteman, and additional lyrics were added and contributed from Alan Morris and Ted Leonard, respectively. Um, and they're all current members of the band, with the exception of Michael Whiteman. Um, Dave Naris and Nick Potters comprise the rhythm section of the band. Dave is the bass guitarist, and Nick the new drummer, and a fantastic drummer he has turned out to be, as this album really indicates. So the album starts out with the track Invisible, and I'll list the tracks on the screen as well. It's followed by Electric Monk, then Informed Thoughts, followed by St. Jerome in the Wilderness, The Archaeoptimist, and Next Step, Spock's Beard. So while listening to this album this morning on Spotify, I noticed that when I got to St. Jerome in the Wilderness, um, the vibe of that song just got me smiling, and it really felt timeless, and it gave the album a sort of timeless feel to it in terms of its composition and overall delivery. Um, and from there, we get the Archaeoptimist, which is the title track, and it is an epic in all manners of the um, definition of an epic. It is a grand piece comprised of different elements, different time signatures, different um, melodic structures within the piece itself, and really, really flows nicely. There's no jarring whatsoever. It really is just an effortless uh, piece to sit through, and it almost as if time doesn't really pass at all while listening to it. You might think to yourself, well, a track that clocks in at over 20 minutes would drag, but it really doesn't. because it goes through so many movements, much in the way a classical piece would. And I sort of felt the next way about the next step, which is the final track. Um, it had a different feel and a different arrangement than the previous track, but it flowed in that same manner. And this album itself has a very fusion oriented sound to it, as opposed to simply progressive. It has a lot of real interesting uh, musical choices going on in terms of the actual song structures. And the playing on this album is really, really some of the best playing these guys have done in years. I really love Ted's vocals on this album. They really shine and they are captivating to listen to. That combined with Al's uh, really unique guitar style and it's unique to Al himself, but it really serves the band well, and it makes them stand out from the average other progressive rock bands out there. Same goes for Dave's bass playing. It's reminiscent of Chris Squire from, yes, the late Chris Squire, um, but he has his own flair in terms of his playing and the grooves that he uh, slides into and plays through. And it's a groovy album in that regard too. It really has this vibe that just kind of captivates and lets you flow and groove out the way I found myself doing this morning while listening to it. Um, I was not particularly looking forward to A Form Thoughts, as I'm not a big fan of the Thoughts um, series of tracks, dating back to the early days of Spock's career and crossing over into Neil Morris's solo work as well. But this particular entry into the Thoughts repertoire was really, really refreshing. And it just was the perfect setup for St. Jerome in the wilderness afterwards. And that was where I just, like I said, I started smiling and just thinking to myself, this album is timeless. You know, it's something that you could have been listening to in the late 60s, early 70s, um, or today. And it just has that feel, that timeless feel to it. And I think that's what really makes this album work is the more fusion progressive rock as opposed to straightforward progressive rock, as it gives the band a lot more leadway and um, uh, ability to uh, think outside the box and do some more slightly improvisational work within the context of structure. Um, and I know that sounds contradictory, but once you hear the album, you'll understand what I mean. It has that quality to it, and these pieces, as I'll call them pieces as opposed to songs, because they are longer than average songs that people are used to. The album only has six songs on it, or six pieces. So um, that should give you an idea of the song length. And the longest song is a little over 20 minutes, and that is the title track. And that is the track that really, for me, it seemed like the shortest when I listened to it. But it was because it went through so many separate movements. Um, and it really just, it captured me. this album really captured me, and I didn't know what to think going into this. I had no uh, ideas as far as what to expect, other than a new Spock Spirit album. I didn't know if I would necessarily like it. I didn't know if it would even sound like Spock's Beard. But it sounds like Spock's Beard, and it sounds like Spock's Beard in a manner that brings them forward into a new phase of their career as a band. Because they're not just rehashing old motifs, they're moving forward um, progressively, as the category implies. And they're not rehashing the old concepts and just recycling them. They're bringing a whole new uh, dynamic to the band as a whole. And I feel that bringing in an external writer helped with that process, as I stated. Um, and Ryo Akamoto really taking the reins in the writing department may have also contributed to the diversity in sound and the diversity in song structure as well. Um, but uh, this was really a pleasant listening experience, um, and I cannot wait to have this album in my hand and just be able to add it to my Foxbeard CD collection. This album really, it reminded me of why I became a Foxbeard fan in the first place. I randomly uh, purchased Beware of Darkness, which was the band's second album, second album, I believe. And I randomly purchased it based on hearing Transatlantic and hearing Neil Morris's vocals with Transatlantic and his keyboard style. Um, and although Neil is no longer part of Spock's Beard and hasn't been for quite some time, apart from reuniting to perform the album Snow in the mid 2020s, this album really elevates the band to a whole nother level. And I think it is truly a masterpiece in their catalog and one of the best albums they've done in years. This is also my first review of a Spock Spirit album since revamping my channel and um, giving it the title of Media Awareness. So it gives me great pleasure to actually say that as well. I did previously do a review of um, a few other Morris projects, in addition to some projects that the other members were involved in. But I really didn't focus on anything Spock's related because nothing new was coming out. But now that we have this new album out, it is definitely well worth the wait, and it surpassed any expectations, even unconsciously, that I may have had. Um, but like I said, I really didn't have any idea of what to expect, and I wasn't necessarily expecting to be blown away the way I was. I was just thinking, yeah, okay, it's a new Spock's album. I'll put it on and I'll listen to it. And that was my morning. I put it on, I listened to it, and my mouth was just on the floor after I was done. And I thought, I have to do this review as soon as possible. Hence the reason the review is coming out on the day of the album's release. Because this really blew me away. And I'm happy to say that. I really am. The guys are really nice guys. I haven't met Nick Potter, but I have met the other guys in the band, and they're all fantastic gentlemen. And that's not why I'm giving this album a great review. If the album was not good, I would say it's not good. But these guys really outdid themselves this time around, and I'm so happy to say that. And it gives me great pleasure to being able to bring you this review of the new Spock Spirit album, The Archaeoptimist. Available now in your choice of formats wherever music is sold. It's also available via the Spock Spirit website, which is linked below, and it's available in um, a double vinyl set, I believe, as well as colored vinyl, if you so choose to indulge in that. Um, and of course, CD, MP3, and to stream. I'll also put the Spotify link below as well. That way you can listen to it and decide if it's something that you want to add to your catalog, um, however you choose to listen to music. This is Rob with Media Awareness. I just want to remind you all that the fundraiser continues and any and all help is welcome in terms of my scooter as well as my wheelchair van. And I will see you all again soon. Have a wonderful morning, noon, or night wherever you are. Take care. Bye.